Hey everybody, and welcome to the fifth episode of the Premodern Showdown Series 2. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined tonight by Flint Espel. Say hi, Flint.
Hi, everybody.
And here you can see what we have in store for the night. We are starting with our first match between Robin and Bryan. And then later on tonight, we will see Shawn against Aaron. So, what are you looking forward in this first match, Flint?
Ooh, good question. I mean, I guess we'll see the bands shortly, but I'm curious to see if we're going to get to see the third of Brian's decks. I don't know what he's on yet, but I think you do.
Yes, I know all the things before we start, but I
He knows
keep
all the things, folks. All the
Yep.
things.
I keep Flint out of the loop just so I can feel smarter. So I can say things that he can't. That's the point. All right. So
Arg.
over at the band screen, we have Robin against Bryan. The three decks that Robin brought to this tournament was Oath of Clerics, Blue, White, Red Wizards, and Pox. And then Bryan has brought Mind Slicer, the Birds, and Solvatara Springs. The bans were Pox was banned for Robin, and Mind Slicer was banned for Bryan. So those decks are probably kind of similar. They have an overlap of a good amount of cards, so we won't be seeing either of them. We did see them last week, both of them, so they'll have to take a week off at least, and we get to see some new decks. So Robin has elected to play the blue, white, red wizards. So this is the first time Robin's played this deck, so that's pretty exciting. And then Bryan is playing the birds. So
All
also
right.
this is the first time that Bryan has selected this deck. So we have two decks that we haven't seen in action. So let's jump over and take a quick look at these and see if we can figure out what's going to happen in this match tonight. All right, the blue, white, red wizards. So we did see a wizards deck last week with Anthony, but that was just a straight blue white build. This one has red, which features Grim Lavamancer and Lightning Bolts, and then some sideboarded Pyroblasts. But you can see that there is less of a wizard component. I guess it's less creature heavy than maybe Anthony's deck was, which boasted almost all creatures. There are some counter spells, but a lot of wizards. Where the wizard suite for Robin is the Grim Lavamancer, is the Meddling Mage, the Patron Wizard, and is it Void Mage Prodigy? I can't see.
I think he's got Keeper of the Mind.
Oh, Keeper of the Mind. Okay, yes, that was the blue 1/2 that can draw cards. So this list isn't as
Wait a
creature
minute, wait a
heavy.
minute. Wait, a
I, th-
quick magic question. Was Keeper of the Mind the art that inspired the unglued card
yeah,
censored?
censorship. Yeah,
Censorship? Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
Okay.
because the art was like too risque and they just cut it
Yes.
off. So I'll bring that one up later.
Excellent.
And so yeah, so this deck is kind of a tempo-y control deck, though I guess when I say tempo-y, I guess the creatures aren't applying a huge pressure, so it is kind of like a creature-based control deck. So it definitely looks to disrupt your opponent with the meddling mages and then the patron wizards and then the interaction spells with swords of polishers, bolts, stifles, and mana leaks and whatnot. And then it does have winter orb, so that will increase the effectiveness of patron wizard if those are together in play. What is your takeaway from this deck?
I mean, it looks pretty strong. I mean, he's just running a lot of good cards in pre-modern. He's got Winter Orb. He's got Meddling Mage in a world with open deck lists. He's got Swords to Plowshares. He's got Disenchants for those pesky artifacts and enchantments. Bolt for creatures. He's just got a lot of early plays. He can interact really well. And, if he can stick a creature or two and stop his opponent in, Mano's case, or Mano in this case, from doing a whole lot for, a fair chunk of turns, I think that he'll do pretty well. It looks pretty strong, actually.
Yep. All right, so let's go over to the birds. Do you want to talk about this list?
So I am not as familiar with some of these cards,
All right,
but
I'll see if I can help
basically,
you out.
basically what he's looking to do here is he's looking to flood the board with birds, right? So he's going to use Battle Screech. He's going to use these low casting cost birds as well, and then he's going to, do things like play Keeper of the Nine Gales, which is a flying bird wizard where you can tap two untapped birds to return a permanent to its owner's hand. So it's kind of like a trade wind rider in a sense, but for birds. He's got opposition in this list as well, which is the sort of the enchantment version where he can tap down permanents. So, my take on this is, he does have some interaction with Mana Leak swords and days, but he's really hoping to get a critical mass of birds on the battlefield and then resolve a key card like opposition to lock Robin out of the game.
Yep. And I think kind of I might say the most important card in this matchup might be Battle Screech, because if you're able to put down two 1/1 flyers, its flashback is tap 3 untapped white creatures. So if you have a white creature already in play, you can flash it back immediately. And because I think, at least in the main, so many of Robin's cards are 1-for-1 removal, other than Grim Lavamancer, but still, even then, it's kind of hard to keep that online all the time. It's going to be hard to answer all those 4 birds or like with one card. So I think that might be the key card that comes down from the birds deck. All right, so let's jump over to our match and we can see our players. And Robin was the winner of the die roll, so he's going to elect to be on the play. And then we can get started and see how this matchup plays out.
Excellent. All right, I have messaged them. Let's see how this goes. If you're just joining us, thank you, everyone. We've got Bryan Manolakos on the Birds against Robin Lundh on Wizards.
All right, before we get too deep, I'll throw out this poll. I want to ask you guys who you think is going to win this match. So you have a couple of minutes to cast your vote, see if you can predict the winner. All right, we're starting off with a City of Brass into a Grim Lavamancer.
Seems good against the Birds.
Yes. The thing is, though, I mean, like, I don't know how hard it is to keep Robin's graveyard stocked. That if he might only get like one easy activation, and then the second one might be a little bit of work, and then the third one might be a bit of a stretch. I don't know exactly how quickly he can fill up his graveyard. That might be something that we'll find out as this game goes on.
He might be looking to fill that up with a Mana Leak here momentarily.
Well, the Ramosian Sergeant will allow Bryan to play around counter spells. That if that stays in play.
Very, very true. And he can search up a Defiant Falcon, right?
Yeah, I think that's. I guess that might be the only. Oh, he can get a Whip Quarter too.
Yeah, he's got one Whip Quarter. Yep. So Caffeinated, Aaron says the most important card in this match might be Battle Screech, words never before spoken. I feel like Battle Screech was played in another deck. Is it a pop in like a Pauper deck?
Was it? Yeah, it's in a red white Pauper deck. It also was actually like the best white common in Vintage Masters, which is like a online limited draft set.
Yeah. I think that's the only set it was a common in, right?
Yes. I mean, it was definitely uncommon in the original printing. I don't know if there has been a separate set where it has also been common, but yeah, Vintage Masters is a common, and it was pretty pivotal for some of the decks that it did. Well, this is Robin's playing all 3 decks too. This is his. He's played each one, so they Bryan and Robin are playing their 3rd deck this week. All right, there we see the Defiant Falcon. He's, instead of fetching it out, he's just casting it.
Yep. Well, when your sergeant gets bolted,
it
does make things a little difficult.
So do you think Robin kind of feels like almost obligated to shoot down each of these Rebel Searchers?
I mean, I think that they are a lot harder to interact with, right?
Because I mean, if the game just keeps going, I like the pressure from Robin didn't seem that great. That I think if the game goes long and you're allowing, I guess the activations for Bryan like aren't that hard hitting if it's just Defiant Falcon and Whip Quarter, because Keeper of the Nightingales is not a rebel, right?
Good question.
That would
change it up.
That would change stuff a lot. The Legion.
It's a Bird Wizard.
Bird Wizard. Okay. Yeah. And you're looking at a updated one. I know I'm looking at the old original printing. You're looking at an Oracle text.
I was looking at Legions. I think it's only ever been printed in Legions, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if an Oracle text would have the updated creature type.
Yeah, it's a Bird Wizard.
Okay. All right, so the 1/1 flies over the Grim Lavamancers.
Got
So,
him.
I mean, I guess the decision, Brian has to make a choice of whether he like saying, "Do I want to hit you for one in chance of taking two from the Grim Lavamancers?" And I think he's saying, "Okay, I'm the aggressor here. I'm going to try and beat down in the air," which makes sense. I think like especially if you supplement it with a card like Battle Screech, then each of those attacks I think get you closer to killing Robin. Yeah, and here Robin's only attacking with one of the Lavamancers, so I guess he's saying I have another spell that I want to cast and then use a Grim Lavamancers.
Yeah. And I mean, Brian's not going to block with that bird anyway, right?
I mean,
So he might as well get in for one.
if there were only one Grim Lavamancers, I think would be happy to trade those. But the redundant
Not
Grim
with,
Lavamancers is not very
yeah, not
good.
with two on the board. All right. A nice 96 Arena Plains over there on Brian's side.
Also, the other land that you might not recognize is a Seaside Haven. So that's a card we didn't really talk about. But if um, if Robin's kind of trying to one for one Brian the whole time, then Brian, if he has the mana and this card available, he's able to transfer the card that Robin's killing into a new card.
Unless it gets wastelanded.
Okay, I guess that works.
Yeah.
That is one thing that is in the ambitious list of Robin's like three color deck. He still manages to play for Wasteland. Yeah, the blue, blue, blue of the Patron Wizard, and he still manages to find room for the Wasteland.
And we do see a stifle there. Brian attempted to sacrifice the Falcon in response to the Wasteland activation, I think. Is
Oh,
that
okay.
correct?
All right. I thought that was an attack. What do we have for life totals? Hard to.
Or maybe it was in response to a bolt.
Do you want to
Looks
check
like
with the
Robin.
players so that like it could
Yeah. I'll double
Robin have
check.
him move his dice down a little bit because it's hard to tell. Just so we're keeping track and trying to get the accurate life totals because I know I definitely lose track all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we can see mana's at 16, but I don't know what Robin's is.
I think okay.
All right, got it. Robin's at 15.
Okay. All right. So then we see a miscut island that enters the battlefield. It's pretty jarring to see all that white on that card. All right, two mana. What's he playing? I guess he's backing up.
Yeah. Robin's been pretty careful about leaving 2 mana open for the most part here.
Yep, and so it's a Whipcorder and then a Defiant Falcon. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously Robin had been representing like counter magic, but taking two to mana leak something, I guess like it's kind of a little bit painful. Here, there's just a sword, so he's just taking one,
Yeah.
and then so he exiled the Falcon. That should be exiled. I don't know if that'll make a difference.
So
So
mana's at
17.
17, Robin's at 14.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I have. Yep. Well, wait. Did I? Oh, did he just attack for two? All right. Brian's at 15. Now he's at 14. And
I think he took some damage from tapping his lands is what happened. So he's at 13 now. He
okay.
just changed his life to 13.
Okay.
It's a great gen.
We got
Yeah, can attack for one, and then he shot the other with like Lava Manster.
Brom Snapfingers has entered the building.
Yeah.
There's no additional white creature, so it doesn't get flashback right away, but okay, so
Important.
these Grim Lavamancers are doing good work with the creatures that Bryan is playing. But I mean, eventually, oh,
Oh no.
Am I better? I need to mute that.
right.
All right. We got Robin muted here.
Yep. Okay. So I mean, I think eventually the I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I was talking about how um, the cards in the graveyard for Robin just might run out, but he's been pretty consistently been able to activate the Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of just like answers too, right? Not a lot of like card filtering or creatures. It's just been swords, bolt, or maybe just one swords, but he's played at least two bolts, right?
I think so. All right, we see a portent. I was shuffling Robin's library, so we have yet to have to cast a portent on an opponent in our Premodern Showdown series.
I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Yes. Right, so is Robin all the way down to 11 now? Yep. And then Bryan is at 12. Okay.
Greedy mana base.
Yeah. The It does not come at no cost to play three colors. Having City Brass or Pain Lands or whatnot are definitely going to add up. So I don't know if those chip points will play into Bryan's favor that he's able to finish off Robin a little quicker than other decks, but I think that's what Bryan's hoping. And yeah, we don't have any cards in the graveyard for Robin right now, and 2 cards in hand. But there isn't anything in play for Bryan. But there is still that Battle Screech in the graveyard, though. Without a second Battle Screech, I think it's probably not gonna. The flashback isn't gonna come online very quickly. There we see Keeper of the Nine Gales.
Yep.
I don't think this is like the best matchup for this card because so many of Robin's threats are pretty cheap, and you have something like Grim Lavamancer that stays in play. But Keeper of the Nine Gales does a good impression of Great One Rider. Well, if you're playing a bunch of birds, then it's just 1 mana less. I guess it's a 1/2 instead of a 1/4, but I think the coming down to turn earlier can be pretty pivotal in some matchups. All right, we have Swords to Plowshares.
Wow.
That will bring Robin down to 10 and put Bryan back up to 12 for the time being. But and then we have Wasteland, so now at least the Grim Lavamancer is back online. So Robin chooses to attack with just 1. I think I might have sent with both, and then just untapped.
Yeah, he's got 1 in hand, right? So I don't know
Yeah,
if we're still putting him on a counter spell here or not. But he's leaving up counter magic plus Lavamancer. Mana.
I don't know. I mean, like, I still feel like Bryan can pull this out. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think he's out of it.
I guess it just comes down to of can Robin keep these Grim Lavamancers online? Because if they're just 1/1s, then they're not really any more impressive than like any of the cards in Bryan's deck.
Oh, hey, early. Early the dog is here. root for Mano.
He's cropped out. I don't think the fans can
Oh,
see it right
no.
now. But
Sorry, everybody. Official dog of Premodern is off camera.
all right, the 2 Lavamancers deal 2, and then we have the what is it? Keeper of the.
It is the Keeper of the Mind.
The mind. So yeah, this was the card we talked about in our pregame. I talked about how it had been featured in the Unglued set for censorship, because I think the art, I think her legs were somewhat revealing or something, so they cropped it in a certain way. Okay, so we see the Keeper getting mana leaked. We talked a lot about the counter magic from Robin's side of the board, but we didn't really talk about the counter magic that's present in Bryan's deck. See if I can bring up.
Mana leaks in a couple days, right?
I think so.
So he's running out the opposition. Robin picks up the card in his hand, but does not cast any counter magic.
And opposition, I mean, I don't know if it's, I mean, it's a fine card, I guess, in this matchup. I guess the most notable thing on this board state is you'd be able to tap City of Brass and deal damage. Which would be pretty good, I guess, if he gets like the Battle Screech flashback. But we're at 3 cards in the graveyard.
And we do see a Patron Wizard now, which is going to be a little annoying for Mano at this point.
Though, I mean, he has resolved his 4-drop, and I mean, the rest of his deck is pretty cheap, so.
I think it's 8 to 7 right now, too. I think Mano is at 8 and Robin's at 7.
All right. Interesting that the Gemstone Mine, he might just want to activate it so that he can put it in the graveyard so it's another card.
Yeah.
I mean, he's using it, I think, maybe more so he doesn't take an extra damage. But it's also an added, in this spot, I think it's a benefit that it can go to the graveyard. And now I think it's like pretty tricky, I guess, for Bryan. He just doesn't have very much life to play with right now. All right, he's gonna try. So every spell he casts, he needs to have at least 3 mana, otherwise it's gonna get countered. So here, the Defiant Falcon. I mean, at this point, are you just, you probably Defiant Falcon and tapping the Patron Wizard to save yourself 2 points, I think. I guess in the next turn you can activate the Falcon and get another one if there's not another card from Robin. Though Robin has the option to tap the Gemstone Mine this turn, tap it on his own turn, and then he would have 2 cards in the graveyard. So he can deny Bryan any activations of this Defiant Falcon. I guess he's going to say pay 1. There, I guess there's no real downside for him to activating this. All right, he'll do it again. Bryan will pay for the second activation. Mercadoom, thank you for the follow. We appreciate it. Welcome.
So he's just going to sack his fetch land here, get the card that way.
Oh, he had a fetch land? I didn't see that. Okay. I guess that makes it a lot easier than the hoops I was talking about. Oh, and we see a disenchant to take care of the opposition, so.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. I was gonna say, like, Robin's board, like, the opposition didn't do that much right now. So, I mean, it's not like the end of the world for Bryan. But, like I said, I think he basically, I think, needs to resolve a Battle Screech and then be able to flash it back to have a shot at this, I think. No clue what's going on here, but I want them both to win. They're both kind of winners right now with they've both provided some creative deck building, and this matchup has actually been pretty interesting in terms of. I mean, I feel like Brian's kind of been on the back foot the whole game, but I don't feel like he's ever been out of it in any spot. I think there's always been a chance for him to take it, but
Do you think that window is almost all the way closed now, though?
I still think like battle. Oh, I guess you wouldn't be able to flashback Battle Screech here. I was gonna say that
No.
that seems like the card that would be the best right now. We're seeing 4 mana.
2 minutes in, I'm sold on this format. Yes, love it.
All
It's
right.
really fun to play. Really
All right.
fun to play.
We do see Battle Screech. And we're still at 6-6, so
Just gonna play a mana leak here.
all right. So this from Lavamancer
Just going
activation
face.
went to the face. Okay.
Yep. So Brian's at 4, Robin's at 6.
So is he just planning on attacking with everything? I don't know. I mean, do you like going face there? I mean, maybe. I guess.
I mean, maybe if he's got a bolt in his hand,
Well, I mean, the
but it
game's,
seems a little preemptive.
game's just over if he has a bolt in hand. Yeah. But yeah, because yeah, if he's just if Brian's able to untap, he's able to now he's able to flashback that. Well, not necessarily. I guess he needs
Yeah.
another white creature.
Yep.
But if he does, I think Brian is in decent shape. But I guess he's only got 1 card in hand, and so given that he's thinking about it, I don't think it's a white creature. There also is a wasteland, so Robin does have the option to wasteland his own land to get 2 cards in the graveyard, which I think is fairly reasonable that it might happen.
Yeah.
Robin is. It looks like that play is happening. I think he's floating a red in response.
Yep.
And putting Brian to 2. And then. So if he attacked with everything, it's a force block on the Patron Wizard and one of the Grim Lavamancers, and he get him for 1, and Brian would not have anything. But Robin has just a fetch land and then passes. So it's white creatures.
5, right?
Yep, I have him at 5.
He didn't change his die. I don't think.
Yeah, Brian has him at 5. So.
Brian's got it. Okay, good.
Yep. And there we see a Remotion
Hey, Tom.
Sergeant. So this is. I mean, if you're looking at the board before, I mean, if 2 creatures on tap weren't enough before, you might as well flashback the Battle Screech now, right?
Yeah.
I guess
Battle
the
Screech an instant or a sorcery?
sorcery.
Oh, it's up. Okay.
I guess the problem is. Oh, okay. So if Robin were to attack with the Grim Lavamancer, Brian can't block it because that would go to the graveyard and then he'd have a fetch land for a 2nd card and then he could die. So Brian can only block the Patron Wizard, and if 1 Grim Lavamancer comes in, then he can't block it. He's attacking with everything. Oh no, he's okay. He's flashing back. All right, that makes sense. I guess the Sergeant just came into play. So here we have a flashback on the Battle Screech.
Yep.
And okay, so Robin's gonna fetch at the end of turn. I think this is just so he is a little less likely to draw land. But this might leave him vulnerable to a if Brian's he's just blocking the Patron Wizard. He should not be blocking the Grim Lavamancer if one of them comes in. And then Robin's basically saying, I need to draw a card to go to my graveyard, card to a removal spell or a damage spell. Otherwise, he can just lose to the crackback.
Yep.
Though I guess the Grim Lavamancer, if it wouldn't attack, would be able to block a Remosing Sergeant. I guess what I said is not necessarily true. Yeah, this is definitely very razor close. But I think Robin is likely to take this down. I'm trying to think. I think like an Anthem effect would be the thing that Bryan needs. Does he have Shared Triumph in his deck? I can't remember. Oh, he completely passed. Wait,
Oh,
wait,
wow.
wait. That doesn't make any sense.
Why didn't he swing in?
Yeah, because now he's presenting lethal with the 4 flyers. Maybe it was Robin thought he was at 5, right? Or no, he's at
I
4. Yeah.
messaged them
Yep.
and,
Okay.
and just made sure
I mean,
because
his dice is at 4.
yeah, he changed it.
I guess what am I missing? I mean, I guess because if there were sorts of plowshares, Robin just would have won. I can't think of what card. All right, yeah, Robin. I think he gave up a chance to win. I'm not saying he would have won, but if he would attack with the Patron Wizard and one Grim Lavamancer, then Bryan has to block the Patron Wizard, and then he only has 3 flyers, and then he's able to block with the Grim Lavamancer on the Remosing Sergeant and go to 1, and then he could untap with the Grim Lavamancer that didn't get blocked and shoot down Bryan.
Yep.
Oh, so that was a intricate combat pattern, which we don't always see in some of the games. So it's kind of refreshing to have creature combat come up and be pretty relevant. So that was pretty cool.
Game. Good game.
All right, let's jump over to our sideboards. We'll see if that changes what we're looking at. Okay, I'm looking at Tormod's Crypt. Doesn't seem that good. Hydroblast, no. Black Vice doesn't seem particularly good. Annul is okay. I mean, you definitely are trading up in mana, but like, there's not that many targets, I think, for the Annul. The Pyroblast probably comes in. Just
yeah.
I guess I mean like Keeper though, like Keeper the Nightingales is just not that impressive. So I mean, what other like opposition? I guess is good, but we saw the board state, and I mean, I don't know what we'll have to look at Bryan's sideboard, but those might be some of the first cards I would take out for Bryan because the Keeper of the Nightingales and the opposition just weren't as impressive in that game. The Mind Harness is a card that red or green creature, so that won't come in. Yeah, I think the 4th Sard of Plowshares probably comes in. The that whatever that card is, that 1 blue pinger, that will come in.
The Firewalker?
Is it a Firewalker?
It's Sakwada Firewalker. I can never pronounce it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that guy will come in for sure. That seems like a card that you're very interested in coming in. All right, let's look at the bird sideboard and see what's interesting. I mean, Swords of Plowshare seems good. Shared Triumph seems good. Worship is how good is Worship? Worship seems okay if you could resolve it. Yeah, I guess there were disenchants in Robin's deck, yeah. So I don't know if he'll be able to take those out. So maybe that's not it. But I think the Shared Triumph seems worth it, and then I would say you could make an argument for Armageddon, but I don't think that almost seems pretty hard to resolve 4-mana spells, and I don't know. I think almost like the mana base of Robin kind of does a little bit of work for Bryan.
Yeah.
Are there cards in the main deck that you don't like?
That's what I'm looking at.
I mean, Airborne 8 is a 4-mana sorcery that draws a card for each bird in play. So we never saw a a big bird board in play. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that comes out. I mean, I guess.
A big bird board.
Yep. Yep. I would take Airborne 8 out. The Keeper of the Nightingales, I guess, to me are not that impressive. I guess I think some of those I would be looking to shave. I think this
You
is
like
just
the whipcorder?
yeah. I think its body is big enough that like it serves it's fetchable and like um yeah. I think it's better than a lot of the cards actually. I think in this deck. I mean, I don't think it's like insane, but I think it's very reasonable. Like I think the oppositions and the keepers actually are lower impact than some of the other cards. Like I'd be looking to bring swords and because we kind of talked about how Robin's deck just didn't have a huge breadth of threats, and if you're able to answer those threats, then you either get a lot of time, which I think might favor Bryan because if you have cards like Battle Screech or Seaside Haven that can provide you card advantage, or like any of the Rebel Searchers, then the long game I think favors a little bit Bryan. But so I think that's kind of just what I'd be interested in doing. And the keeper and the keeper just doesn't seem impressive. I guess the only card that's appealing to bounce, I think, is Patron Wizard, basically.
What about a meddling mage?
Yeah, there might be spots where you want to bounce that, but I mean, I think most of the time it's just like a 2/2. But
Probably save your swords for it.
so I feel like the Birds deck is getting a little bit better after sideboard. I think it improves more. I
So
guess.
swords and triumph are your picks.
Yep. I think I'd be taking out a bunch of blue cards, especially if I'm thinking like if Pyroblast is coming in. Though I guess it's not like you're bringing out enough blue cards to like blank the Pyroblasts, but I don't know.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to take a look at the players here and see. It looks like they're still sideboarding, so we have some time. So
The
you take out the oppositions then? You take out what, all three, you think?
yeah, I mean the one thing that is nice about the opposition is just if there's City of Brass in play, but I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're tapping a creature to deal 1 damage, that creature is likely to be able to attack for 1 anyways. And it's not that effective to tap like a Grim Lavamancer. So I don't know. The opposition doesn't appeal to me that much.
If you're bringing in 2 triumph and 2 swords, you could take out, I don't know what, like 1 opposition and 3 keepers.
The,
Is
yeah,
that
I
good?
think, I mean, Airborne Aid might be worse than those cards. I think I might
I
take that
kind of
out.
feel like he wants a critical mass of creatures though too, just given what we kind
Yeah,
of saw last game. But
but if
the white, and
he
granted, the white ones are more important than the blue ones.
if he has that, isn't he already winning?
Well, he just needs to get some on the battlefield. I guess I'm not saying he's going to go wide over Robin. I guess he just needs to keep up with Robin's removal. Is more my point.
Yeah, I think Soul Catcher's Airy is the one that you guys were. Oh. That was one of the judgment enchantments. Whenever a bird dies, you can put a feather counter on this. All birds get +1/+1 for each feather.
Wow.
That would be a. But see, the problem is when you play the bird mirror, your feather counters boost both players' birds.
Don't
So,
get me started on the bird mirror.
but
That's nuts.
it only triggers when one of your birds dies. It doesn't trigger when your opponent's birds dies. So it's kind of unfair. It's like in the bird mirror, it's almost a liability.
Yeah, it's a pretty foul card.
Indeed.
All right. I'm going to let them know that they can start game 2 whenever
Yep.
they are done.
Yeah, I know. In the midst of that, there was like a connection reset, so I don't know if there were any technical issues that maybe have delayed them from sideboarding. J Palm 84, thank you for the follow. Welcome to our stream. Hope you're enjoying some pre-modern
Welcome.
content. The bird mirror is the reason not to run it. I agree.
Thanks, Gabe.
Though that card actually is kind of interesting because I mean, if you're resolving in a spot, then like every bird is either gonna deal you damage or kind of add to. It's gonna just make each successive bird that much more of a threat. So that'd be a interesting card to look at. I guess it's kind of slow to get going, and maybe most of the time, like just a card like Shared Triumph might be a lower ceiling, but also a lower floor, and just more consistent.
Oh man, I wish that I would have been able to work with Wizards on the Unglued set. It's one of my favorite sets of all time.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if I were to help design like the first one, I think I would have been really bad. But I guess after seeing like the first set, then maybe I'd be able to mirror some of the designs. But I think if you just gave me like a blank slate and be like, be funny, I'd be like, not a good job. That is true that Shared Triumph does have the same problem as the in the bird mirror.
So is Robin taking a mulligan here?
I don't know. I've been following chat, so. Oh, that wasn't the bird. Which one was I thinking of? Which is the bird that's like white, white? Um,
Mesa chicken? Is that the one?
maybe. Let's see if the art. I think yeah. I think this is the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Yes. So I
Played that
like
card many a time.
I like how this card is just. I mean they. I guess in Mirrodin that was ages ago. They just made a white white 2/2 flyer, and I thought that was like a big deal at the time. So basically, it's this card, but you just don't have to stand up and flap your arms and cluck like a chicken. Though I guess there are probably instances where it's better to have your guy not have flying some of the time. So
Quick update here. Robin's at 19. He's playing Important to start out.
all right, we should focus on some black bordered cards.
If we have to.
Yeah, I don't know. Did anyone have Mesa Chicken on their bingo card tonight? Cards we talk about. Okay, so it looks like Robin's shuffling after the portent. Then we do see a turn one a Ramosian Sergeant. Which I think like this card actually, if it stays in play, is kind of problematic for Robin's deck.
Oh yeah, it's a good start. Really good start.
Like the threats that Brian's able to search out are not like super impressive, but I just think the idea of Robin's deck a lot of times, other than the Grimlomancer set, is trading card for card, and the Sergeant just gets around all that. You're just able to turn 4 mana into like a 1/1 flyer. All right, we see Meddling Mage. Do you want to try and figure out what what he's naming?
He will likely message us. Looks like he set his cards down for a second. So he's either writing it or he's going to message us. What would you name?
I think Battle Screech. I mean unless there's like a card that like gets rid of Meddling Mage in a way, but I think Battle Screech is probably the card I would be naming.
Let me ask. Screech. Yep.
All right. Always makes me feel a little bit better when I guess things correctly. All right, so the 2/2 of the Meddling Mage will outsize what Brian has on, so Robin adding to the board. This is a Patron Wizard, okay. But we see the Mana Leak.
I think that makes sense this early in the game. It's just going to slow Brian down so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that card is resolved, then your sequences just become a lot more problematic. Though, I mean, Robin would be at kind of an awkward position of whether he wants to attack with his tutus or keep him up to force spike things. And especially with Ryan having the Ramosian Sergeant to fetch things out, that would be uncounterable. It would be an interesting tension, but I guess Bryan doesn't have to worry about that, or Robin doesn't have to worry about that either way.
Turtle Man's here. Hey, Gerard.
Hey, Gerard. Favorite two decks in season 2? Well, it's pretty cool that you get to see them face off against each other. So far, the first game that we had was actually really, really interesting. So Bryan's at 17. 17 apiece. Is that where we're at?
Seems that way.
Okay. All right. Now I think life totals are changing. Now Bryan goes down to 15 from attack from a meddling mage. We do see a third mana. Wait. Oh, yeah, it is. I was thinking it cost 4 to activate the Sergeant, but I guess it is only 3.
Is he just doing it main phase to stop his stifle?
I guess that would be
He thought about it.
the reason. Though,
Seems a little aggressive.
I mean,
Especially
I guess it's
there's
whether
just
you want to
Robin just
represent like a
too low.
counterspell or whatnot. But I mean, if you're going to activate it either way and you want the creature, then I guess it makes sense. I don't see that many ways that Robin would punish the main phased activation. Wizards of Waverly Place. I don't know. Guess we didn't get that creative with the deck names that came in, but now I'm just thinking of people like altering their wizards with Selena Gomez art.
So Robin thinking here.
Yeah, it looks like it. And also notice that Robin only has Island on his side of the board, so he only has access to his mono blue spells, and that could be pretty pivotal as this match goes on. If Robin's not able to cast his his bolts, his Grim Lavamancers, more Meddling Mages, Swords, Plowshares, Disenchants, then Bryan really can pull ahead. Because there isn't like a sweeper, there isn't Pyroclasm or a Firestorm or Slice and Dice or something to take out enemy creatures. It's just card for card.
Yep.
Hitchcock Islands. Why are they Hitchcock Islands? All right, this Falcon getting in for 1.
Sweet beats. So he just fetches up another Falcon here end of turn, ideally.
Yeah, that's probably better than the Whip Quarter. Third best island. So Gerard, what's your island ranking if the so-called Hitchcock Island, I guess, is the third best island? I know I share some common rating. Some people have posted one of the invasion lands islands. A lot of people like. I do like that one. I don't know what my ultimate favorite island would be, but there's a lot of good islands. I feel like it's funny that I think blue is the best color, and I feel like there are so many islands that I really like.
There really are.
The second one, I think I probably like there's a bunch of mountains I like too. I would say the one I have the hardest time finding that I like probably is forest. There's just not many forests that I like. All right, well, so we do see a whip quarter that is added. So that was we've decided to diversify our threats. Now I can always get behind a good whip quarter. I don't know. I don't know if underplayed is the right word for this card, but it's just like I feel like it's just a perfectly balanced card. Like white for a 2/2 is good in this format, and it has the ability to like tap a creature, which could be relevant. I don't know if the morph really plays into much, but I just like the efficiency of whip quarter. and the utility that it comes with it. All right, so here we see a new addition that we haven't seen in the previous game, and that is Suntail Hawk.
Caw, caw.
I always think of my brother when this card is played. He built a white weenie deck with that featured Suntail Hawk and some equipment from Mirrodin. They don't make them like they used to. Just the 1-mana 1/1 flyer was somewhat impressive at the time. All right, so
absolutely.
we see the Whipquarter trade with the Meddling Mage. So I think Robin's just looking to preserve his life total, but that does open up the door. It does open up the door for Bryan to cast a Battle Screech if he does find his 4th land.
And we are seeing him getting punished this game, right? So game 1, he had access to all of his colors. He was chugging along.
Though, I mean, he was taking a bunch of damage. I mean, like, I think that did catch up to him. The clock would have been significantly different, but with all the City of Brasses and the Pain lands that he tapped. But yeah, here we just see just 1 color for the 3-color deck.
Gabe in chat, Master Decoy is really, really good art. I'm a big fan of that one as well.
Which one?
Master Decoy.
Oh.
So we got some love for Onslaught Forest, Mirage lands. I mean, again, I've said it before. I think I've even said it on the series. I'll say it again. Mirage has the best lands of any standard set. And then after that, I have to go with Arena 96.
Oh, I can't remember what set Master Decoy is from.
I think it was from Tempest or Stronghold originally. It may have been Tempest.
Tempest, all right. Let's see if my favorite forest from Onslaught comes up. I don't even know if it brings up Onslaught 1.
There it is. Yeah, Mirage Forests aren't as good, I know, but the rest of the lands in that set carry it.
That's what I was going to say. That is the weakest point of the Mirage lands, is the forest.
All the other lands are so good.
Robin is revealing a hand of red, white, and white cards.
Uh-oh.
So
I think it's over.
Yep, the birds took it down. Oh, this is not my favorite forest. All right. So we do see the pyroblasts that were brought in, but yeah, let's jump over to their screen. We can maybe hear about the players for a little bit.
Sounds good.
I sat there thinking, and I was like, is there a world where I name Manolakos because I have another Meddling Mage in hand? So I had 2 of them.
And then so that whole game you had a second, but you drew a 3rd land, so then you played Patron Wizards. Yeah.
Well, regardless, I didn't name Manolakos with the first one, right? So
right. So I could hear you thinking about it. So when you did that, I had 2 Manolakos and 2 Battle Screeches in my hand.
Yeah.
So I was damned if you did or didn't, but.
Yeah, well, so the game would have been a little different than if I named Manolakos and then named Battle Screech. Because then I would have surefire had I would have had this tree on board by turn 4, as Manolakos was named.
Yeah, it would have been a totally different game for sure. I mean, I still don't hate my chances because I can just keep searching. You can't kill the rebel for a long time, so I'm going to get a lot of value with that rebel.
I need to find an answer to that fast. The annoying thing with this matchup is, like, I know I should have played clerics, but I didn't want to play the same deck again.
I mean, honestly, I don't. Like, we played that one game, right? We played that one playtest game when I was on, and I beat you with this on clerics. But after board, the 2 engineered plagues are a little awkward.
2 engineered plagues. There's grave pack. There's like a lot of good shit in the sideboard. I think I'm at least like 50-50 there, and I knew here with between Battle Screech and the 1-mana rebel specifically that you can get out early. There's few ways to do that, and like game 1 with the 4 dead stifles.
Yeah, the stifles are real bad. Your deck does get a lot better. Mine gets, I mean, it gets a little better. These cards, Airborne 8 is just bad against you because normally my board is just empty.
Yeah.
And Daze is really bad against you, especially on the draw.
If the board is not empty, you're winning anyway. Also.
Right, that's the thing. Airborne 8 just really shouldn't even be in the deck. But I just wanted to play Airborne Aid, right? Like, that was the whole
It's fun to draw a shit ton of cards sometimes.
I should have just played a single Airborne Aid just to, like, be able to say that I did it. The second one was greedy.
Yeah, maybe. Well, at least I had a shot game 1 there. Besides me.
Did you look at your next card in game 1 or no?
No.
Okay, thank God.
I rarely do that. I guess I would have had one more turn if I didn't fetch when I thought I was in 6, but I was in
That's
5.
what I mean. So did you look at your next card? Like it
Yeah.
probably. I mean,
But it would've-
you're
it
a
would've-
dog.
yeah.
There's still plenty of outs for you there. Yeah.
It would have had to be specifically a bolt or a bolt or a wasteland.
Or a wasteland because you couldn't tap city.
No, I couldn't even be a wasteland. Wait, level monsters turned off. You attack me down to 1, so it would literally have to be a bolt.
Were you guys?
So you had 3 outs.
Do you guys have us unmuted?
Sorry, what?
So that last
I
game.
have you unmuted. No, sorry. Let me just answer mana. No, I would have 0 outs actually because I had no aimless red mana. So.
So
we're talking to us. Sorry.
I have them unmuted. I'm just waiting for you.
I'll unmute them.
I can hear you guys.
Okay, so
I can hear you. Sorry.
So that last game with
No worries,
the interaction. So Robin was at 5, I believe, or maybe he went down to 4. But who was at 5, and Mano was at 2. But
you mean the first game?
Yeah, the first game. At the end of the first game. You could have attacked with the Patron Wizard and one of the Grim Lavamancers because you had one Flooded Strand in your graveyard, and Brian had 2 creatures untapped.
He would have had to block a 1/1.
No, he cannot block the 1/1 because if he blocks the 1/1, then there's 2 cards in the graveyard, and then you could just activate the Grim Lavamancers. So he has to block the Patron Wizard, and he has to take 1, and then he has 4 creatures, but one of them is a Remosian Sergeant. So you're able to block that one. And then if he attacks with the Remosian Sergeant,
was his Sergeant tapped?
At the time, yes. But if he's attacking, so on your turn he has 2 creatures untapped. They're the 2 Battle Screech tokens that he just made. Yeah. So you attack with a 2/2 and a 1/1. He cannot block the 1/1 because then you can activate the other Lavamancer. So he has to block 1 token on the 2/2. So he takes 1 damage. He loses 1 token, so he has 5 creatures. Or he has 4 creatures, and one of them is a ground creature. And so if he attacks with everything, you're able to block the Remosian Sergeant with a Grim Lavamancers, and then you untap and you can kill him with the other Grim Lavamancers.
So he would have attacked with 4 creatures. I would have gone to 1. So I wouldn't have been able to do that because my only red source was Painland.
You had a City of Brass, right? You can activate the Grim Lavamancers, and then you can tap the City of Brass and have the trigger on the stack, and then activate the Grim Lavamancers and kill him.
Okay, yeah. So
I always forget about that. I hate that interaction so much.
I hate that interaction too. I hate it in old school. I rarely had to deal with it in pre-modern.
It shouldn't exist.
Did you? I thought you still had. Did you still have a gemstone mine at that point, or no? Maybe that one already went to the graveyard. Okay.
He used his gemstone for
sure. Yeah.
That's why I had to do the wasteland trick later. Yeah, that means Bolt was live too because it's. Wait, does that work?
Yeah, lightning bolt. You could tap. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means Bolt was live. Yeah. So the fetch was a mistake to begin with. I just didn't want to take it back because I had started picking up my deck when Mano told me I was at 4, not 5, and he had 4 flyers, and I was like, oh shit. But the real mistake is dealing 14 to myself because there are no red sources that hurt, which is pretty rough. I knew this was going to be a hard matchup to begin with, but this deck is pretty shaky. It's one of those decks that it looks pretty good on paper because it plays bolts and plows and shit. But requiring a constant red, access to white, and triple blue is just really rough. So the 2 main problems is it has an absolutely atrocious mana base, and it plays too few creatures. It needs 2 to 4 wizards more, preferably.
So is there a world that the blue-white Wizards deck is just better, even if it doesn't have access to Grim Lavamancers, just because it has a real mana base?
I think so, or it is some kind of hybrid version, maybe. I don't know. I haven't really thought about how I would fix this, but it's certainly something that needs fixing. But this was also I think I should have played Clerics. I don't know. You guys probably had us unmuted. I think I should have played Clerics, but I just wanted to play another deck. I didn't want to play.
Did you? You 100% knew that I was going to be on Birds, right? There's no possible way I'm playing Solfatar against either of your decks.
No. I knew you were going to be on Birds, and I know Battle Screech is really rough. So I mean, it was also I multi-5 on the play in an attrition matchup, which is really rough because there's a lot of 1-for-1 going on, and I really need to. one for one the Rebels ASAP too. Which is
In
hard
addition
do.
to that, my draw lined up perfectly against yours with those mana leaks. You know, like that was just.
Well, so that's the thing. Like, if you didn't have the Remotion Sergeant, I think it would have been an entirely different game. And if I had played it correctly, right? So if I had named Mana Leak on the first Meddling Mage, like I was thinking about doing, then I named Mana Leak, you untap, you have 2 leaks and 2 Screechers, and then I played the second Mage naming Screech, and then you need to rip.
I've heard swords.
You need to rip Rebel plus either Rebel plus land, or you need to rip a Swords, right? So that would have given me a lot of time. But that turn 1 Remotion Sergeant was really good.
What's funny is I even sideboarded out a Mana Leak just because I thought there was a good chance you were going to Meddling Mage Mana Leak on if you drew it on turn 2.
Yeah, and
I still drew 2 of them in my
I still think I lose that game considering what my draws look like. You would have still have gotten up to 3. I would have had 2 mages and a Patron Wizard in play, but you wouldn't have given a shit because you would have just put a 1/1 in every turn.
Yeah, but also at that point, you might just give up on any kind of lock and just start attacking me with all your 2/2s. Was it a 2/2?
Yeah, they would all be 2/2. So maybe I go to aggro plan then.
Yeah, but at one point you can always get like Whip Quarter, right, and trade with one of those 2/2s.
Right.
Yeah,
if I stop attacking you, yeah.
So
I could do
then,
that at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I stopped attacking with a mage, because I was like, I mean, I have no action, but if I attack, he gets a Whip Quarter, trades, and then he casts a Battle Screech. And then
yeah, I was really hoping you would attack with the mage, obviously, because I had 2 Battle Screeches in my hand. I just needed to get it off the table, assuming if I ever draw a 4th land, you know, it's probably GG's anyway, but it would be full lock with 2 Battle Screeches.
But I think my table at the end there is a call to anyone interested in playing Wizards, and at least playing like a more controlling Wizards deck than the all 1-drop one. You saw a hand of all red and white, and you saw 2 islands in play. It's like, if you can fix that somehow, then you might have a good deck. But that's definitely the weak spot. Yeah,
there's not even a card you can cheat with and play like 6 in your deck or something. You know, there's no card in Premodern that helps with that mana base.
No, Undiscovered Paradise is really good in the deck.
Yeah, but like curving out with Undiscovered isn't great, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the curve isn't that high. Like, as long as you have Undiscovered in like 1 or 2 other lands, you can usually do a lot of shenanigans, but preferably you'd find a Winter Orb at some point too.
Right. You want something that lets you curve Lavamancer into Meddling Mage into Patron Wizard, and there's just no real card that does that.
It's really hard to do. You can't even play like if you play are there blue, white, red layer lands?
No.
There's not even layer. Even if you had layer lands, it sets you back a turn when you're trying to do a 1, 2, 3, so that's pretty shitty.
Are there any good green wizards? You could play 4-color wizards and splash birds, splash your mana fixing, and maybe you can pick up a nice green wizard.
I mean, you can play Kyrian Dryad.
There's got to be some like has anyone ever scryfalled for green wizard? It could be a thing. Like we might have to check that out.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure Hoyt is doing it right now. He looks like he's...
There's some actual. There's some green birds. What's that dude? Hunting Moa is funnily enough a bird.
Is that a bird wizard? Oh no, just a bird. Oh, just a bird.
No, it's just a bird. I considered playing
bird. It's a beast. I think it's a beast too.
Yeah, I think it's a bird beast.
Because I think that one's come up on my beast search before. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like there's that many green wizards in the pre-modern era. I think in the modern day, there's probably a lot more. Sylvan Safekeeper is one. I don't think there's that many green wizards.
You're gonna find a lot more druids.
Yeah.
Is Wood Sage a wizard? Probably. He's got to be a wizard, right? He does wizardly things.
How do you define a wizard?
It's a druid. We should get
a fucking druid. Oh my god.
Well, at least the original. I don't know if he's been errated.
He's errated.
Yeah, my fetcher only brings up the original card.
That turns on your Grim Lavamancer too, doesn't it? That could be a deck.
Which one?
I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but there was a broadcast I did with Bob Baker where we did a coverage of a match, and we went off on a tangent talking about druids and how they're super inconsistent with the typing. Like there are cards like literally with druid in the text that aren't druids or something. It was
all old cards, right? Because they fixed it somewhat recently, but yeah, like there's, you know, you've heard all the whippoorwills, you know, and like doesn't have flying and all that kind of stuff. There's some real bad stuff in the early years of Magic, flavor wise.
All right, is there anything else you guys want to sum up on the match? Because otherwise we'll kick you out so we can get the other match get started. But
Nope, I just feel very lucky, and I got away with one.
No, I think he was favored here.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the way the matchup, in theory, I think the blue-white deck actually had a decent, like if you just, because a lot of Robins are just card for card, other than Grim Lavamancer, and you have
exactly.
your card advantages are Battle Screech. I mean, Airborne Aid. I don't know if that counts. Like Seaside Haven, and then like any of the Rebel Searchers. Like those cards all give you ways to go up on cards. And because Robin's clock is not super high, then I think the games will go pretty long. So
Yeah,
I mean,
that
I don't
was
think it's a terrible matchup for the Birds deck. I think
It's
they are
right. It's
advantage.
really like if he doesn't
yeah,
draw
I
Grim
think
Lavamancer,
favored.
Yeah.
Grim Lavamancer is the key to the whole thing, and that's why
Yeah.
I felt dead to rights in game one. He just flooded out and did 14 to himself with his lands. But like in general, Grim Lavamancer is like by far the scariest card and pretty much the only card that I'm like just legitimately frightened of.
But even in game one, you could see the battle screeches was also what won him that game because I had to use like 4 activations or something, killing fucking battle screech birds, or I feel like he would just go away, run away with the games, with just flashing back a bunch of battle screeches. And that cost me a lot of my life, and it wasted 8 damage I could have dealt to mana straight up. So that was pretty rough.
Yeah.
All right, before we go, I do have to just point out that, Hoyp, you just said my main card advantage card, my card draw spell, Airborne Aid, that says draw, whatever, draw a bunch of cards. You just said you're not even sure that that counts as a card advantage card. And that's
Because
the only,
okay,
that's
here
the only reason it's in the deck.
here was my reasoning, because if you have a bunch of birds in play, you're already winning. Like you don't need that card.
No, I completely agree with your reasoning, and I agree that Airborne Aid sucks, especially in this matchup for that reason.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that's how bad it is. It's my card advantage card, and you don't even know if it counts as a card advantage card.
It's like
But I agree with your reasoning. If I ever catch 3 or 4, I'm off to the races.
All right.
Yeah. It's pretty horrid. How much mana does it cost?
4.
It's 4.
4. Yeah, you
It
play
costs 4. I did
you
it.
play it on the play the turn before they wrap you, and that's the only time it's okay.
I told Mano just to play Factor Fiction, and he said no. I'm playing Airborne Aid. So
I should have just switched one of them to a Factor Fiction, and that way I'm still playing Airborne Aid. That is the move, clearly.
Factor Fiction is decent with Battle Screech too, Mano.
Really quickly, too, before you guys go, someone pointed out
All
in
right,
chat.
good games. Let's let the other guys.
What's the name of the card, Mike?
Airborne Aid?
No, the enchantment that we were talking about. Where
Soul Catcher's Eyrie.
Oh,
Soul Catcher's Eyrie.
We were talking about that.
I had that one on my list. It didn't quite. I probably should have it in the board against mass removal, but my boards are all terrible. I'm a famously atrocious sideboard builder, and I don't really know. I could have played one because I have this Enlightened Tutor package that we talked about, so I could at least play one just to keep people honest. But I didn't even do that, so I don't know. Probably should be.
Fair enough. No worries. Well, congrats, Mano. Robin, better luck next week. Thanks a lot for playing, guys, and we're going to kick you out and get the next players in.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Later.
Good luck to the next players.
All right, on our schedule, we have Shawn and Aaron are up next. So we're going to get them set up. We're going to take a quick break, and we should be back real shortly because we already are a little bit running behind. So just sit tight, guys. We will be right back. Okay, everyone, thanks for waiting. We are back from our break. We are now about to start the match between Shawn Sullivan and Aaron Dix. And here we go to the ban screen to figure out what decks are available for the players. So Shawn's 3 decks are the Unnatural Spirit Mirror Control, Prosperity Bloom, and Torpor's V. And then Jund Fire's Rock, Forbidian, and Bant Counterslivers are Aaron's decks. You can see that the Unnatural Spirit Control and the Bant Control Slivers have been banned. So Shawn has elected to play the Torpor's V deck, which we saw in action last week, so we get to see it again, which is always exciting. And then Aaron's going to try and prevent flashy things from happening with his Forbidian deck. So the blue-black control deck will try and prevent Shawn from comboing off. All right, let's jump over to the decks so we can take a quick look at what they have in store. So what this deck is trying to do is basically step 1 is Resolve of Dream Halls, which is a 5 mana enchantment that has the ability of each player can discard a card that shares a color, and you can play a card without casting its or paying its mana cost. You can cast it. So once that's in play, cards like Time Stretch, which is normally a 10 mana sorcery, becomes much more appealing when you just have to pitch one other blue card. And then other cards like just card draw spells like Factor Fiction or Opportunity will keep it going. And then the way it usually wins is a Tidal Kraken, a 6/6 unblockable, or Arcanus the Omnipotent, which is a 3/4, but then also has the ability to draw 3 cards, which if you're untapping with Arcanus and you have Dream Halls and you've cast a Time Stretch, then you're living the dream, which we saw last week. So definitely some explosive things can happen out of this Torpors V deck. So I don't know if it's aptly named, but we will see. But we also saw it have some resilience, that it was able to fight through some counterspells. So it should be able to put up a good fight against the Forbidian deck. Oh, this is... Oh, let me bring this up real quick. I screwed up which photo I was bringing. Hold on. So the Forbidian deck is a blue-black control deck, and it is going to have a lot of counterspells, and then also has a number of discard spells with Duress or Mesmeric Fiend, and then it's going to try and keep it all going with a Shadow Mage Infiltrator, and then it also has a lock with Forbidian, or not Forbidian, sorry, with Forbid, and a card draw engine. So let me pull up this deck list. Forbidian. All right, there we go. That looks a little bit better. So here we can see actually some cards. So cards like Mesmeric Fiend and Duress will be able to take cards out of Shawn's hand. And then there are counterspells with Counterspell, Mana Leak, Dissipate, Forbid. So a plethora of counterspells. And then if Shadow Mage is in play, it'll be able to fill up Aaron's hand and whittle away the life total of Shawn. So what do you think is going to happen in this matchup, Flint?
I don't know. I mean, it's. I think it's a pretty steep hill for Shawn to climb here, and it gets a lot worse after sideboard when 4 nulls come in. As much as I love to see the combo decks, I think this is kind of a tougher matchup for Shawn.
Yeah, I do agree that there obviously are a lot of cards that interact pretty well with Shawn's combo, but I guess if there aren't the discard spells, which I guess there are a number of, but there's 8 of, Shawn might actually have a decent amount of time to set up. We did see him last week set up a turn where he was able to go through a number of counter spells from his opponent and still resolve Dream Halls. So we might see the same game plan come from Shawn again. So a turn 1 Duress is going to reveal a Time Stretch, a counter spell, a Factor Fiction, an Intuition, a second counter spell, and 2 islands. So looks like Intuition is the choice for the Duress. All right, let me bring up the poll. Oh, sorry. For our second match.
All right. So while you're pulling that up, we'll just kind of see how things are going here. So it looks like a bit of a draw go situation. So both players just kind of running out lands, trying to decide when they are going to make their move. And we do see Aaron plays a Factor Fiction, beats a counterspell from Shawn.
It looks like a little bit of a role reversal if John's countering the Factor Fictions from Aaron.
Yeah, right. And there's the Shadow Mage.
Okay. So yeah, that's a pretty key card in terms of this will keep things churning for Aaron. Let's see if I can pull this up on the card fetcher.
So Shawn has to pass here. He looks like he's stuck on 3 lands, and now Aaron has the card draw engine going. Inquest had Dream Halls, the worst card in Stronghold.
The worst
One of
card.
the worst cards.
It's just so funny. Like when they pick those cards, I mean, I feel like this just reminds me of the Necropotence time of. I mean, I can
Right.
understand like maybe you think it's like not a good card, but just I guess maybe it's times were different then. Like there weren't that many exciting expensive cards, and even the expensive cards weren't that flashy. So I guess at the time it's way less powerful than it is nowadays. But it's kind of like I feel like a card like that you can at least see that it might have potential. Like maybe it's not good per se, but there's so many other worse cards. Yeah, I don't think there was a way to like go off with Dream Halls. I mean, maybe there was like a type 1 thing with like Time Twister or something and Time Walk, but the problem is you'd have to exile cards that cast it. So I feel like it'd be hard to keep that loop going forever.
So we see him as Merrick Fiend come down here. And what's the card he took? I can't quite make it out.
I did not see it. I think it's a Fact or Fiction. I think that was one that was in his hand earlier. Looks like our poll is split evenly between who's going to win between Shawn and Aaron. All right, so every time that Shadow Mage gets in, Aaron gets to draw a card, which I think is probably the more important portion of it.
I thought you were going to say an angel gets its wings.
Yeah, that's an exalted angel gets flipped up.
There we go.
All right, another duress. I mean, at this point, yeah, it hits a redundant copy of Dream Halls, so not the worst thing for Shawn, but I think kind of at this point, I think he just wants mana, 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 mana. If he get a number of those double lands, like the Sapressian Scary or the Silduvian Temple, that might give him an opportunity to cast Dream Halls with Counterspell backup, which I think would be his only real route that he's gonna sneak through a Dream Halls, because Aaron has a lot of counterspells, and just drawing more cards is only gonna make things worse for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say on paper it seems like Aaron has a pretty good matchup. I feel like his disruptive package is really good against the combo deck. There's just enough pressure, but then plenty of disruption. And here we see a Nightscape Familiar added, so that'll make the mana situation a little bit better for Aaron. Makes all his spells a little bit cheaper. So, and as he's drawing more cards, I think that'll actually come into play, because there might be a counter war at some point, and I think Aaron definitely will be able to win if Shawn just starts down 5 mana.
Yep.
And I guess like the thing to note is the 1/1 body is not irrelevant here. I mean, you change from a 7-turn clock to a 5-turn clock, so it not insignificant on that portion. All right, we see a boomerang that's going to target presumably the Shadow Mage Infiltrator.
Yeah.
But Aaron might have something to say about that. I mean, I guess, yeah, at this point, you've got so many counterspells in your hand, you're able to just spend a mana leak on a tempo play like Boomerang. And Shawn will use this opportunity to use one of his counterspells. But there is something about Aaron. What did he cast?
He cast a second mana.
Second mana leak? Okay, I didn't see it
Yep.
in the graveyard. Okay.
Yep.
So more mana leaks. Yeah, so this seems like a tough spot, because I mean, you have to imagine if you're Shawn that there's no way Aaron's just firing off Manolakos if he doesn't have other counter spells. If you think you're gonna be countering a boomerang and then let him untap and resolve a Dream Halls, I don't think that's what's gonna happen. So the Wasteland takes out the scary. So that was one way for Shawn to kind of pull ahead and get a counterspell back up with the Dream Halls, but that's denied.
Yeah, Aaron's has to be feeling pretty good about his position here.
Yeah, it definitely seems really good.
The deck's doing everything that it wants to do.
Yep, got all systems going, and just, I mean, he's sitting pretty. Like he'll add another Shadow Mage Infiltrate to the board, and this will probably be over in 2 turns. All right, a new card for Shawn. Okay, it's an H2. I guess he's gonna attempt, hope and pray. But
what do we see? A forbid here, or
nope, just a mana leak. Okay,
just a mana leak.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you gotta play to your outs, but yeah, I think Shawn knew that it was pretty unlikely that that Dream Halls was going to resolve. He's going down to 4, and 2 new cards will go into Aaron's hand. And Shawn will draw one last card, and
did you draw another Dream Halls? Nope. Skipping him up. Okay.
Well, he wouldn't have even been able to draw or cast the Dream Halls, because the Ancient Tomb would have killed him.
At least he can go out on his own terms.
Yes, that's true. All right, so we got 1 game for the Forbidian deck with Aaron. All right, let's jump over to our deck screen, see if we can talk about sideboarding, see if anything changes for Shawn. All right, heavy counter magic. What does he want to do? I see a back to basics in there, and there are at least a number of non-basics. I think that's a card you probably bring in, that it's just like a way to maybe steal a game in kind of some sense.
I like Drake here for a Shadow Mage, right?
So
I mean,
you'll give your opponent a clock so that you can draw cards.
Maybe that's just terrible, or maybe a bribery for a Shadow Mage.
Sure, I certainly don't want bribery. I don't think I would bring in the Gilded Drake. I guess I can see someone like with the thought that the card draw is more important than the life, but I feel like it just is a little bit too risky for what I want to do, I guess.
What? So he's got some bounce spells here, right? Like he's got Rushing River, for example.
Yeah, that card I could see coming in too, because there might be a spot where an early Mesmeric Fiend takes out Dream Halls, and then maybe a few turns later, Aaron taps out to cast a Morphling or a Shadow Mage Infiltrate or something. Then you're able to sneak in a Rushing River, get back that Dream Halls, then play it. I mean, I do like the bounce spell. I think it is enough of what you need in this matchup. I mean, it's an angle to fight, I guess, basically. But yeah, I think the options are pretty limited for Shawn. Let's see.
The other thing to consider here. Go ahead and go to
Okay.
Aaron's deck list, because that's actually what I was going to talk about. Aaron has, obviously the 4 nulls, which are pretty good. But what do you think about Tormont's Crypt? Do you bring in the Crypt so if Shawn does try to combo, you can at least exile his graveyard, or are you just sort of done at that point?
Well, Shawn never goes like, if he's never recycling his graveyard. Oh, I guess he does have one Reminisce. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I don't think Shawn needs to, because there's just a limited amount of spot removal that you could just put 2 to 3 Tidal Krakens into play, and I think that's going to be enough. There's not an efficient way that Aaron can get rid of those once they're in play. But yeah, I think the annuls come in, and I mean, I can see taking out Recoil. I mean, that's a card that's
that one stood out to me as well. Once the Dream Halls is on the table, it's It might be too late.
Trader and Writer is kind of another card that's just like there's not that many permanents that are in play. And once the Dream Halls is in play, then I don't think Trader and Writer is very efficient. Like if you're having to keep up 2 creatures just
Well,
to
and if
keep
you're
up
having to keep up if you're having to keep up counter magic as well, right? To tap 4, that's going to be a late game play, and if you're getting to that point anyway, you're probably in pretty good shape.
Sure. All right. While the players are still shuffling up, let me jump over to a get to know the player screen.
Ooh.
We didn't have time in our first match to go through this, but we did a questionnaire for all of our contestants, so we get to week by week we'll get to know them a little bit better, so you can learn to love or to hate the players, someone to cheer for if they have the same similarities of what you like. So we have Robin. He was in our first match tonight. Started playing around 1995. It was earlier than I started for sure, but so Robin's been playing Magic for a long time. His favorite color is black. I guess that's if you've seen any of the decks that Robin plays, that is not very surprising. He's often casting Duress and Cabal Therapy, which will bring us to his favorite pre-modern card, which is none other than the Cabal Therapy, which is a card I really love. I love the it feels at a good power level, and it feels kind of rewarding of if you know the format, and it feels like you can kind of get tricky of when you want to time it and cast it. I really like Cabal Therapy. His favorite deck is Full English Breakfast, which we saw him pilot in the Winter Blast to a 2nd place, and that's kind of one of the decks that the more you play with a deck, I think the more just comfortable you get, and you'll be able to find positions to win that some other players won. Definitely a rewarding deck to stick with and learn the ins and outs of. And his least favorite pre-modern card to play against, he said, Stifle, Yawn Not, or any card in Sly. So even Mountain. He does not like playing against mountains, apparently.
Those pesky mountains.
Yep. Stifle, Yawn Not. That's kind of a bold statement. It's because he doesn't like Dreadnought either. But moving on to Brian, who was the opponent that took down Robin in our last match. He got started playing at the tail end of Legends, so a little bit later than Legends before or after 1995. I don't know my my order very well.
It came out in June of 1994.
Okay, so a little bit earlier than Robin, but not by much. So looks like our players are finishing mulliganing, so we'll have to come back to these slides at a later time, so we don't catch or don't miss too much of the action. So
sweet pre-modern action you all came here for.
Yep, I saw one mulligan from Shawn, so he's down a card, but he's on the play, so he's looking to assemble a Dream Hall, sneak it in a situation where Aaron can't protect it or defend against it. All right, 2 islands. That'll cast an Impulse at the end of Aaron's turn.
If you look at Impulse from a long ways off, it looks like he's got like a bag of popcorn that he's reaching into.
I can see that.
He's at the movies. He's really excited. He's about to dig into that popcorn.
He's not at the movies. He's watching the Premodern Showdown series.
Smart man.
Yes. All right, I definitely see it when I bring up the card image. I mean, those are some big popcorn kernels, but I see the popcorn bag. Yep. He must be lying down if he's at the movies. It looks like he's looking straight up. All right, so we see the Parsian Scary. So that's threatening the next turn Dream Halls, but Aaron has a Wasteland to take it out. I'll bring up Wasteland because I don't want to type the name of the other one. I mean, I guess in that spot, like, you're okay. I mean, it depends on how many mana sources are in your hand, but the difference between if Aaron wastelands a land when he has like a Shadow Mage Infiltrator in play, that's way worse than just if he has nothing on the board.
Right.
We see a 4th island, so just building up that mana base. Yeah, I think like Shawn, it's just really important in this matchup for him to hit his land drops when he can. And like Aaron might be in a spot where he's like, I have a Shadow Mage in my hand, but I'm afraid to deploy it because if I'm only tapping down to one land, Dream Halls might come down and smack me in the face. So
Yep. He's got to play a lot more conservatively on the draw.
right. So we do see a fifth land drop. Well, I guess it's his sixth land, but he does add a fifth land to it to the board, and he's gonna try it. So all right,
Oh,
here's a
he
bribery.
brought it in.
I mean, I guess from this stance, like this is a spot where if Aaron doesn't counter it, it's just probably gonna add. I mean, it could be a Morphling, it could be a Shadow Mage Infiltrator, and that's just gonna kind of force Aaron to react. So I mean, I guess it's filling up the deck of Shawn with more threats that Aaron has to counter. So
Yep.
I guess that's the reasoning behind the bribery. It wasn't a card that I thought would be very impactful, but I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like especially this board state, I like it. So
Well, and Aaron really can't run out of Shadow Mage here yet, right? He still has to wait.
he could have 2 mana up, so he could.
I guess he can because Shawn will go up to 6
Yeah.
next turn, so he can't Dream Halls and counter unless he plays an Ancient Tomb. If he drops an Ancient Tomb,
Sure.
he could Dream Halls and counter. So I don't know. I think if I'm Aaron, I'm still conservative here. I don't run out a Shadow Mage yet.
The torpor part of Torpor V, it's more of just a pun that the Turbos V deck was supposed to be like really fast and consistent, and Shawn's take is just kind of the creative aspect and not necessarily an optimal version. And I think that's where the torpor comes. It's just a slower version of a SV creation.
So we see he does run one out. So let's see if Shawn has the Ancient Tomb. Let's see if he has the perfect hand.
All right, we see a gush. So that still gives the option. Like this is still like live to have that sequence because he's able to float the mana. Yeah, the best play would be follow up with like an Ancient Tomb. That way you'd have counterspell backup for your. All right, we see a Factor Fiction is the card that Shawn's gonna play. So the one thing is that since he already returned 2 islands to his hand, Shawn's probably gonna have to discard. So this is more of kind of like a mega impulse as compared to just like a card advantage card.
Yeah.
Shawn's almost definitely gonna have to discard cards at the end of turn.
And we have Aaron down to 17.
Okay.
Not that it's going to matter a whole lot in this matchup.
I mean, if that bribery resolved, maybe I would have. But we do see the Factor Fiction get counterspelled, so.
So Aaron here in a pretty decent spot because Shawn only has 4 mana now. He's going to go back up to 5. And if Aaron's got at least 1 counterspell, he's fine. And if he has 2, he's sitting pretty.
Yeah, that and like every turn that goes by, the Shadow Mage Infiltrator just kind of pulls Aaron further and further ahead. Just that extra card is just so valuable in this matchup. All right, we see Aaron tapping some mana.
And a turn, Factor Fiction.
Looks like it, yes. So someone's asking, open question for chat and commentators. Anyone doing brewing for the Premodern Unchained? And that is a variant tournament that someone's running where no cards are banned, but instead those cards are just restricted. Is that correct?
That's correct, except for the anti cards.
Is
All
every
the other ones
is
are
every card
restricted.
restricted, or just the cards that were banned are now restricted?
I believe it's just the cards that were banned are now restricted.
Okay.
And yes, I am brewing.
You gonna do something broken? Or are you just playing like a creature deck with Yawgmoth's Will?
That's pretty much it. It's white weenie, but I'm going to splash Caves of Koilos and Yawgmoth's Will.
There you go. After they wrath, you just like put them back into play.
Boom.
Broke it. All right. We see a fact or fiction that reveals a Shadow Mage Infiltrator, a Wasteland, Underground River, Mesmeric Fiend, and Island. So I think Mesmeric Fiend might be the scariest card. It depends on Shawn's hand. Okay. But then it's kind of like you almost get to the point of if you're not like if that second Shadow Mage comes down and you're not able to win right after that, like 2 Shadow Mages almost just like game over for Shawn.
Yeah, and you give him the lands too to get ahead to the point where you can cast it.
Yep, there will probably be some Tendrils decks. I guess on restricting or from Tendrils of Agony becoming banned to restricted, and then also cards like I don't know Time Spiral or Yawgmoth's Will. I guess maybe I should have thought about it. I do like a Tendrils of Agony a lot, but I'm not planning on playing against it. So yeah, Galarian Academy is also another card that's legal, though. That one, like, sometimes I wouldn't be as excited. I mean, I guess it's not that hard to put like a card like Grim Monolith or something in your deck, but it's harder to capitalize on Galarian Academy if you only have one of those in your deck. With a card like Tendrils of Agony, it's fine that you only have one of those in your deck because by the time you're going off, you're probably going to be able to find that one copy. Yeah, you could use crop rotation. Then you have to play green cards, though.
All those banned green cards.
There's a regrowth.
There's Earthcraft.
That's true, too, but that probably is not very good in your Storm deck. But...
Probably not, but hey, you can still run it.
Yeah, Aaron is just on 7 cards forever. Yep, he'll be drawing 3 cards per turn, I think. We do see an Intuition, so this is off a Ancient Tomb. So Shawn is either he's representing a counterspell because he's willing to take 2 damage to cast this Intuition. Earthcraft, Squirrel's Nest, and Enlightened Tutor. That is a possibility. Oh, Regrowth is not even legal, I guess. I forgot that.
If you have a Wild Growth, you can use a Sacred Mesa. You could run a green-white Enchantress deck. I don't know if it would be good enough to compete with what other people are going to brew, but...
Yeah, I feel like people are going to go over the top of Enchantress, but... Alright, Shadow Mage coming in for 2. That'll net Aaron 2 more cards.
What do you think about Shawn's chances here?
I think they're slim to none.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I think this is just... Especially in this position, this is just everything Aaron needs, so... We see a Mesmeric Fiend revealing 2 time stretches, 2 opportunities, a 3rd time stretch, and a Dream Halls, which will be taken.
Yeah. And there was the Wasteland there, too, for the Ancient Tomb, just, again, setting Shawn back to 3 islands.
Yep.
But I don't know if Gush is that great of a card to get used for the alternate casting cost in this matchup, because it just sets him so far back on mana when he's trying to, keep up with Aaron to the point where he can cast a Dream Halls and have counter magic backup.
It's good in the spot like when you're comboing off because you can actually you don't have to you just under Dream Halls you can still cast cards for their normal cost, which would include the returning 2 islands. So I think that's where it's at its best.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like in the setup though, right?
Sure.
Obviously, once he gets to the point where he's comboing off, it's a different story. But
Yep. So we see 3 a turn. So Shawn probably has at most 4 more turns to live. But with Aaron just discarding the hand size, discarding Underground River and a Trade Run Rider, I think things look pretty good for the Forbidian deck.
Yeah.
The one thing to note is the way that Shawn has all his decks set up. Since he banned the Unnatural Spirit Mirror control, the other 2 decks are combo decks, and so Shawn kind of has a dilemma of banning the Bant Counter Slivers deck, which he did, which is pressure and disruption and counter spells against, or this Forbidian deck, which is a little bit less pressure but more disruption, and it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So
Yeah.
here we're seeing a Factor Fiction just kind of rubbing salt in the wound. I mean, he was discarding the hand size before, now he's definitely gonna be, when he untaps, he's gonna be discarding the hand size. So he'll
Should
split it.
just do a 0-5 pile here
That
and
is-
just make him, you know.
That's one way to do it. All right, he took the 3 cards. I saw there was a Dissipate in there. I don't remember the other cards, but
Yeah, for those of you who play combo, veteran Magic players, you know that disruption and pressure is the best way to beat a combo deck, and that's absolutely what Mike is saying here with the 2 options that
Yep.
Shawn had to go up against.
yeah, he either had to go against a deck that was really aggressive with a little bit of disruption, or a deck with maybe less disruption or less aggression but a lot more disruption. And yeah, I think it's tricky either way. But yeah, this does not look like it's going to pan out well for Shawn. We see a Duress that's going to take. He can just take a Daze. I guess the other cards. The mana cost of Shawn's hand is currently 42. So
Yep.
yeah. I don't think he's casting those spells anytime,
That is a very important number, though.
I guess.
Douglas Adams fan?
I don't know what you're referring to. So.
Okay. It's from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I have not read that, and that is like literally the first book on my to read list. So.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I feel worse about not reading books. I'm okay like not watching movies because I don't know. I feel bad that I don't read important cultural books. But
To each their own.
spend too much time playing Magic. I will not. I will definitely. If there's a book that I want to read and there's a movie, I will definitely not watch the movie before reading the book. That is for sure. I'm a purist in that sense.
Just put yourself in this spot where you can't watch any movies because you haven't read the books, but then you don't make time to read the books.
Well,
so you end up doing.
I just have to watch movies. Just watch movies that aren't books. So. All right, Ryan. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye, Ryan. All right.
We see Shawn's life total dwindle. The Ancient Tomb that will help accelerate the process. And he's still there's no Dream Halls in his hand.
Oh, he's got one unknown.
Maybe. Oh, I think he tapped it. Yeah, he says, I want to deal some damage to myself. He's gonna have some agency. All right. The clowns come in and they're able to finish off Shawn. So not an impressive showing for the Torpor Svi deck, though I think it really had the writing was almost on the wall from the beginning. It just seemed like a real tough matchup for the combo deck. Let's jump into listening to the players to see what they have to say.
Robin, I know that was another reference.
So the counter spells before you got too far ahead with Shadow Mage.
With the 2 Shadow Mages on and hitting on multiple factor fictions, I was just like,
Yeah.
well, I've got a handful of these things. What am I going to do with them?
Yeah. I was hoping that the bribery was, I was pretty sure that bribery was like a counterspell test. Like, is he going to counter this kind of thing? But if it went through, I was for sure going to grab a Shadow Mage.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking I was betting you were going to look for the Morphling. But it's funny, I had pulled the Morphlings out.
No.
So I thought you were going to find the Morphling, but I mean,
okay.
You were going to look through and see that there were no Morphlings and get a Shadow Mage, and that seems all right.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I mean, even getting the Nightscape would be pretty sweet to get things moving, you know?
Yep.
Hey guys, do you have us unmuted?
We do.
All right.
Yeah, this deck would love to have Nightscapes, except
or I do. Shawn, do you have them unmuted?
Not yet. Yeah. There we go. All right.
It seemed like it was the combo deck was destined to fall. I guess no matter kind of what you did, Shawn. Like if you brought either way, you were bringing a combo deck since he banned your control deck,
right?
And either way, Aaron had access to a deck with disruption, whether it be the Bant counter slivers or the Forbidian deck. So it seemed like a tough spot for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think his decks just line up really well against mine. They're really it was like a kind of like how do I want to die kind of thing, and I felt like the Bant counter slivers deck, that's just so it can be both fast and like very interactive and disruptive, whereas this deck is a little slower. Like mostly it's got 1/1s instead of 2/2s, that sort of thing, and it's trying to eventually it gets out of hand with Shadow Mage Infiltrator and just overwhelms you with card advantage, but it needs to get there first. And you like in the second game, you kind of saw I had a lot of turns of just being able to draw cards, and like I had a bunch of good stuff in my hand, but just I was pretty sure he was sitting on some counter spells and like just firing off a Dream Halls into nothing. I guess I could YOLO it like I did in the first game. But
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we had talked about either facing a deck with a lot of pressure and a little disruption, or a deck with a lot of disruption and a little pressure. And it's I think it's difficult either way, but yeah, I think it makes sense the choice of having the Forbidian deck as your opponent.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I think all his decks are all great. I love all those decks, and I just think because I have 2 combo decks and he has 2 control decks, there's no way I can get myself in a position where I have, at least a sort of more favorable matchup than what we just saw. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying when I looked at the matchup, I was like, this one seems like I have to, heavily favor myself in the matchup. I was looking at the bands and like, well, one of these doesn't look like the other ones and can't be attacked on the same lines. And I've got these, like you guys said, you can't keep me off of counter spells. So that was rough. I thought for sure you were going to ban Forbidian actually, just because first turn duress, second turn hold 2 blue open seems awful.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I mean, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I would have had other different kinds of chances against the slivers deck, where there maybe because you just have a little bit less disruption. Like I have more room for the hands that are like 2 or 3 soul lands and like a turn 3, turn 4 Dream Halls, and just sort of maybe you don't. That deck has fewer counters, and so maybe you don't have it, and it doesn't have duress, I don't think. No. And so it's possible that was better. My thought process here was, well, part of it was like, let's make the match last a little longer and play the control deck, but more control deck.
I think it makes sense because like with the slivers deck, like you're going to play like a card on like turn 2 and turn 3 and maybe turn 4, and then you have a lot of pressure in play because the card that you want to counter is a 5-drop, so it's not going to come down right away. So the problem is like with the Forbidian deck is like you're like, if they are tapping out on turn 2 and 3 to play like cards that have 1 power, so you do have more turns. Or if they don't come down right away, it's a lot harder to deploy a Shadow Mage Infiltrator because it costs 3 mana as compared to 2, and like that might give you a spot where you're able to sneak in a Dream Halls with a counterspell backup where he only has blue up or something. So I definitely understand that I think it makes a lot of sense of trying to go against a Forbidden deck.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm just looking at the chat to see if there's any questions they had about either the games or the rough matchup here. Rocking a hard place. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the alternate pre-modern format, the Unchained one. Have you guys heard about that? Where
I have. I mean, I think I have a deck that breaks that format.
Okay.
So, but we'll see.
I kind of hope. I mean, I kind of feel like if you're playing in that tournament, you should feel that your deck breaks the format. I mean,
I think you should be trying.
So
I just want to play Sacred Mesa Earthcraft.
Okay.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Did you?
There you go.
I mean, mine. Yeah, it's not a hard thing or whatever. It's just play all the band stuff. So like Yawgmoth's Will and Yawgmoth's Bargain and Necro and Tendrils and
you're kind of like a bad stuff. Vintage deck at that point.
Yeah, it's basically a bad. It's a like circa 2001 vintage deck maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Or
Nice.
Yeah, other than that, I guess I don't have much to add. I think that once the decks were decided, I think things were kind of destined, but and things kind of played out exactly how we thought it would. So.
Yep. It's nice when Magic does what you think it would, because sometimes it surprises you. But also, it's nice to remember that sometimes it is a game with rules, and there are things that are objectively better than other things and stuff like that. So.
And thank goodness I saw land in this deck for this matchup. Like it always seemed like I had enough land. That's been kind of the sticking point with this deck in testing so far.
Yeah, that definitely would be an opportunity for Shawn to steal a game, is if you start missing land drops that you're like, you don't want to commit to the board and you're just going to be discarding counter spells. And so I can see that. That's probably, I think, Shawn's best way of winning is mana screw. So
it can happen.
Yes,
it can. We talked about how important it was for both of you guys to hit your land drops as you were playing out those turns.
Yeah. In game one, I actually had some problems. Game one, I got stuck on 3 land for a long time, which was rough because he could do stuff like, I mean, he could see, right? I had all these counter spells in my hand, but he was able to like factor fiction his end step, and I have to counter that, and then he knows I can't counter on my turn.
Yeah, and like the other thing is like him having Wasteland, just like him taking off of the double lands that you have, really just makes it a lot harder for you to ever cast a Dream Halls with a counter spell back.
I almost brought in Stifles, and kind of wish I had now, because he also on the second game there, his mana base was like, he had like an island and a wasteland,
3 fetches.
Yeah. And so I was kind of getting up there in mana to where if I had a Stifle and a Dream Halls in hand, there might have been a way out, for me to try to get him into a position where he couldn't actually get blue up. But yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Again, Shawn, I love the combo decks. I love to see you play them. Unfortunately, you haven't had a lot of luck yet, but there's always next week. Aaron, congratulations. The deck fired on all cylinders like it should. So we will see you guys next week, of course.
Yep.
Cool.
Right.
Sounds good.
See you next week, guys.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, guys.
Great game, Aaron. Congrats. Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great games.
Bye.
All right, let's pick up where we left off on our getting to know the players. So we were on Bryan's slide. His favorite color is red. I can appreciate that. I love a good goblin. I love a good burn spell. I guess we did, and then his favorite pre-modern card is also Cabal Therapy, which I also already was singing the praises when we were on Robin's slide. I like that card. So his favorite pre-modern deck, he said, still on the hunt for it, though he might have submitted this before he played that first match with Solfatara Springs.
Perhaps.
because he might be chasing that high for the rest of his life. That first game was pretty magical, and I don't know if he'll ever be able to experience that again. But his
It's all
least
downhill from here, man.
yeah, that's true. His least favorite card in Premodern to play against is the Noble Mog Fanatic. What
I
like
think he just hates Sly.
what is? I mean, is that's not even like the bad guy out of Sly, is it? Like, I mean, like Jackal Pup or Grim Lavamancer are like the much or Ball Lightning. I feel like Mog Fanatic is like the good guy in that deck. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a crossover if you hate like red decks that like, but he says his favorite color is red. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's also a goblin, so it's in the goblins deck. I don't know. Yeah, I could see that Robin like saying that if it's in both decks, but I feel like the Mog Fanatic is the hardworking man. He should not be hated upon. All right, we'll move over to Shawn. He started playing in 4th edition, so a little bit later than those other two players, but really not by much. It's so surprising, like when you look at like the chronological I don't,
Chronology?
yeah, chronology of the sets that like the Alpha Beta Unlimited revised and 4th edition, like they came out pretty quick. They like
Yeah.
they're pretty close together. His favorite color is black in Magic, so get those powerful tutor spells and do the dark things to get ahead. So favorite pre-modern card, he says, is Duress. It's both the best friend and worst enemy of combo. And I feel like Duress is, I mean, it kind of also on the same front of the Ball Therapy is kind of one of those things that keeps things in check. I mean, if you didn't have those black disruption spells, then the combo decks just get that much better. His favorite pre-modern deck says, whatever I'm working on, and he's a Johnny at heart. I think you guys can tell by the decks that he's brought. And he says his current
Yes.
favorite is GG's, which is referring to the Greater Good combo deck. So that one tries to put a Greater Good in play and then tries to cast a Phyrexian Dreadnought, and then we'll be able to draw 12 cards and discard 3, and then continue going off with all those cards that it draws. So a pretty explosive deck and really cool. Kind of was a new creation that kind of jumped onto the scene a couple months ago.
Got a lot of variants to that deck, though.
Yeah.
A lot of variants.
His least favorite card to play against is the Fire Blast. So we're hating against Sly, I guess. Though, I mean, I will appreciate that at least the opponents that I've played, I've not played against many Sly decks in the last 6 months, maybe a year. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's just this unwritten agreement that we just don't play Sly in the monthlies. So I don't see a lot of
one
Sly
that just
decks.
made the top 16.
Okay, so yeah.
So the Boogeyman is still out there.
Yep. He also noted Standstill as a close second, so that's kind of the other pillar of the other most hated deck, I guess, of the blue-white Landstill deck. Standstill can be a frustrating card. It's just when they get 3 cards, it feels bad.
Doesn't feel great. Unless you're the one with the Standstill.
Sure. All right, we'll move on to Aaron's card. We see that he started playing in Ice Age, so relatively around the same area for all these players. Favorite color is red. I guess that's not a surprise if you've seen the decks that Aaron's played in the past. He jumped onto the scene in the Spring Fling with a Sly deck, and I think he's done well in other tournaments. I guess he has played the Rock, I know, in one of the other ones, but he does prefer his red cards. Meddling Mage is his favorite pre-modern card.
Wait a minute. Favorite color is red, and then we have blue-white card.
I don't know. There's varieties of Spice of Life, I guess. I mean,
I suppose.
I do like the design of Meddling Mage. It's very elegant and efficient and whatnot. I also do like that the effect of Meddling Mage is just, it's much more impactful. It is in this era of cards than it would be in modern day Magic, where you're going to have a variety of threats in modern day Magic, and shutting off one card is not that effective. But here in pre-modern, you could see like a card, like Shawn playing against a Meddling Mage, Shawn has to play a lot differently if he has his combo deck. So I do like Meddling Mage in this format a lot. His favorite deck is Sly. We kind of talked about how that's what he started out in pre-modern with, and he's played to success before. So his least favorite Premodern card to play against Duress, so he does not like. He's on the opposite side, I guess, of Shawn, Bryan, and Robin. But then the other card is Chill. I mean, if you like the red cards, I see how you don't want to face against that 2-mana enchantment. So
Especially if you're on Sly and not Goblins.
yes,
Yeah,
so,
pretty rough.
all right, so that's what I have for our players for this week. So if you tune in on Wednesday, I'll have the remaining 4 players. We'll learn a little bit more about them, and then every week from now on, we'll have some interesting tidbits so you guys can get to know the players. But let's jump over to our schedule for our Wednesday matches. We have Phil playing against Gabe. That'll start us off. And then we have Andy taking on Anthony. Is there anything you're looking forward to on Wednesday, Flint?
I think it would be fun to see some decks that we haven't seen before, kind of like tonight. So, we haven't seen Phil's Esper Zombie Still deck yet. We
Yep.
haven't seen Gabe's Nether Hops deck.
Mm-hmm.
For Andy, we haven't seen Slivdeuce.
That's true.
And for Anthony, we haven't seen
Dig Site.
Dig Site. Yep. So
Uh,
it would be cool to see any of those decks, I think.
You're trying to influence the players on what they're going to ban. But yep. Yeah, so it's always cool to see the new decks. I mean, everyone's probably anticipating seeing some of the ones that they have not played. So fingers crossed that we get to see those on Wednesday. But in the meantime, I guess I just want to end the stream by thanking everyone who was able to tune in. We appreciate you guys watching. We're having a lot of fun with this. We had some cool matches tonight, and we expect the same going forward. So I would like to close out by just saying thanks, everyone, and take care, guys.
Night, everybody.